What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So lots of news to go over this week, and the first is that we get a glimpse at the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee for the first time here. And so this is thanks to my spy photographer Brian Williams. And so it has heavy camo, so we can't make out too much here. It does look to have this like pronounced brow there on top of the grille that was probably just camo to throw people off. But otherwise, you know, things we can tell are that it's going to have a longer rear overhang now for a better cargo space, most likely. It still is going to be only 2 rows though. That's because they're saving a 3-row Jeep for the Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer, whatever they end up calling that larger vehicle. And so anyway, the Grand Cherokee here is going to be using a stretched version of the Giorgio platform from Alfa Romeo that's used on the Stelvio and Giulia, of course. And so engine-wise, you know, it's a mystery. I doubt it's going to use the same engines as the Alphas just because it's on the same platform. I think, you know, they're going to heavily rework the platform here for Jeep, obviously make it more off-road capable, all that kind of stuff. So that means the engines are still a mystery here, but there's some rumors that it could be getting the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that's now in the Wrangler as an option, and so that might be the new base engine, and then they could use the Pentastar V6 and then the V8s, and probably all of those will be getting the e-torque mount hybrid setup as standard in those, and that will kind of help to hybridize the FCA lineup a little bit here. And so that's basically like the powertrain straight out of the Ram 1500. Just expect those to come over, I guess, is what I'm assuming here. So we'll have to wait and see. It could debut this year sometime before the end of the year, but seems a little early, so it's likely going to be showing up sometime next year instead, and have an on-sale date by the end of 2020 most likely. The 2020 Genesis G80 was also spied this week. This time was on the Nürburgring, and again, thanks to Brian Williams for these shots. And so we can now see the production bumpers, which we weren't able to see quite as clearly in previous shots. And so you can see it's got some nice chrome accents there. The front end kind of mirrors the back end with little slits there in the front, and looks pretty nice though. And I mean, since this is a 2020 model year vehicle, this should be arriving relatively soon, so I'd look for a debut before the end of the year for sure. Another luxury sedan that was spied is what looks like the next-gen Mercedes S-Class, and so huge thanks to Instagram user Vishar15 for providing me with these shots here, that he was up in Pikes Peak and was able to get these shots, and very nice shots, by the way. It's a beautiful area there, but I think this is really kind of perplexing, honestly, because it looks almost identical to the current S-Class body, but it seems too big to be a refreshed E-Class, but we know that the new S-Class that's coming is going to be an all-new S-Class. I didn't expect it to look quite as similar to the current one as it does. So we'll have to see, you know, how this turns out or what this is. It looks like the front bumper there is similar to like the new GLE and that kind of styling that they have. So yeah, a little bit perplexed. One thing we do know is this is most likely some form of an AMG version or an AMG package for whatever this vehicle is, because you can see the dual rotors there and the sportier calipers. And so yeah, very cool. Let me know what you think that is in the comments below. Anyway, interesting to see that, and huge thanks once again to him for sending those over. And then the last spy shots we have here are of the 2021 Nissan Sentra, and this one thanks to Brian Williams here. So nothing interesting here since the car was already revealed for other parts of the world as the Sylphy, and they actually brought the foreign market Sylphy to the New York Auto Show back in April, and so we know exactly what it's going to look like. So like having camo on is kind of silly, honestly. But the interesting thing from these pictures is that on the inside there, it's running a 6-speed manual transmission. So, you know, obviously if they're testing this in the States, I would like to think that that means we'll get this transmission in the States. Obviously other parts of the world most likely do get a manual. Hopefully we do get it in the States. That would be very cool competition for a few of the others that do offer it, like the Civic and the Corolla. And so, yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it would be nice if this was a test mule for a Nismo version or some type of sportier version. But it seems fairly plain Jane on the interior there, so I'm guessing this is just a manual option for the regular Sentra. And so anyway, I'm guessing we'll be seeing that relatively soon, maybe before the end of this year, maybe at the LA Auto Show would make sense in November. But anyway, cool to see that. A company that's already making a quick compact car, we don't have to wait for it, is Kia. They just announced pricing here for the 2020 Forte GT that gets that, you know, 1.6-liter turbo engine with 201 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque. They debuted this way back at SEMA of last year, so we're talking about like end of October, early November of last year, and we're still waiting for it. I'm not sure what the holdup is, but we now finally have pricing nearly a year later. So I'm glad we have pricing because it is great pricing. So we know it's going to be offered with a manual and a 7-speed dual clutch auto, your pick of whichever one you want. And now we know it's going to be a bargain too, starting at $23,215 with the automatic transmission. So interestingly, the manual is actually the upcharge version, and that's $600 more expensive for the manual. Those starting at $23,815. But it's nice to see them offering it at all since Hyundai killed off the manual and the Elantra Sport, and this actually undercuts the Elantra Sport by about $1,500, and it's actually cheaper than even like the Veloster Turbo R-Spec, Civic SIs, all that type of stuff. And honestly, especially compared to the Elantra Sport, I think this brand new Forte has a much nicer interior. It looks cooler on the outside to me. And so I think this is poised to, be a pretty big hit among those who want a manual, affordable, compact sedan and don't want to go with the usual SI or the GLI, which is a little more expensive, like I just reviewed this week. Anyway, there's still no specific release date for these, but it's got to be coming, this fall at some point. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear the pricing there. A quick little story here from Acura this week is that they revealed a new paint color for the NSX for 2020, and it's called Indy Yellow, and is supposed to pay homage to the spa yellow color of the old NSX. And I think it looks awesome. Actually, I think it's probably my favorite color I've seen so far for the NSX, honestly. So cool to see that. And some more substantial supercar news. Piston Heads this week is reporting that an LT version of the McLaren 720S is coming, and it could be coming sooner than we expect. So, we all kind of figured an LT version of the McLaren 720S would be coming, since they do these types of things pretty quickly and pretty often. But to have it as soon as the end of this year is a little surprising, but that's according to an insider source of Piston Heads there. And they also are reporting here that they say a Spider version of this LT 720S could be shown at the 2020 Geneva Motor Show in March of next year. So that's kind of the timeline here. Get the coupe before the end of this year, and then the convertible a couple months later. Certainly makes sense. And so I'm sure those vehicles will not disappoint. So cool to hear that. And in some other performance news, Audi has officially teased 6 RS models that will be debuting here by the end of this year, they say. And so that means at least one coming each month, I'm guessing. We probably won't get all of them here in the States. There's probably a few we won't get, although there's been teases that kind of suggest we might be getting some of the Avants here in the States, possibly the RS6 Avant, maybe even the RS4 Avant if Audi feels very kind, but we'll have to see. We do know, for example, I didn't actually realize this, but Autoblog said that Audi had confirmed to them that the Q3 Sportback, we won't even be getting the regular version of that here in the States. And I talked about that. That was just revealed a couple of weeks ago. So supposedly that's only for Europe. We're not getting that in the States. We'll still get the regular Q3, and that is also getting an RS version. So hopefully we'll get that in the States here. And then as far as the other stuff, it's going to be, like I said, probably the RS4 Avant, RS7, RS6 Avant. Those will most likely be coming. That biggest one there in the shadows is most likely the RS Q8, and that'll most likely be coming to the States for sure. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what they debut and when they debut it. Chances are, though, at least one could show up at the Frankfurt Motor Show here, which is in September, and then maybe one at the LA Auto Show in November, maybe more than one, maybe less. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, sounds like we'll have some sweet Audi news here over the next few months here. So cool to hear that. An Audi that's likely getting killed off though is the A3 Cabriolet, according to Car and Driver. And so this is a report of theirs. This isn't officially confirmed yet, but their report here suggests we won't be getting a 2020 model year of the A3 Cabriolet, at least in the United States. And so this isn't really a surprise. We already heard recently that BMW is most likely killing off the 2 Series convertible, and Mercedes is scaling back on all of their cheaper convertibles as well and getting rid of most of them. Supposedly, no one has confirmed this yet. Everyone's kind of waiting, I guess, to see what the other one's doing or something. But it sounds like all the Germans are getting rid of all their cheap convertibles. And no surprise there, I guess. It's just they don't sell in enough numbers to justify them. So if you want a convertible Audi, I suggest you move quickly, because we also know the TT is getting killed off, and so that convertible is going away too. And even the A5 and S5, considering Mercedes is most likely killing off the C-Class convertible, getting rid of its competitor, the A5 and S5 convertibles, would make sense. And even the R8 we know doesn't have much longer to live, it seems. And so, that convertible could also be going away. So potentially Audi could have no convertibles here in the not too distant future, sadly. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear that. Volkswagen confirmed another death this week to Motor Authority, actually. And so this week they confirmed that the Golf R will not be getting a 2020 model year. So it is officially done for the Mark 7 generation here. And so this, again, isn't too much of a surprise since the Mark 7 generation is kind of coming to an end here, and the Mark 8 generation is coming here probably next year now. And so, we're guessing that the Golf R, Car and Driver suggests at least, it'll probably be coming for a 2021 or 2022 model year vehicle. Even though the Golf could be coming as a 2020 model, it's going to take, it's usually another year or so later that the R version arrives. Same with the GTI. So probably a little bit of a delayed rollout, and we even get it later here in the States than they do overseas. So, going to be a little bit of a wait there, probably maybe a couple of years gap between this old R and the new one. But we do know a new one is in the works, so nothing to worry about too much. Another 2020 Volkswagen change that Volkswagen also confirmed this week is that the Jetta GLI that I just actually reviewed here, that was a 2019 model, and so it's going to be losing its 35th anniversary trim for 2020, obviously, because it's now the 36th anniversary. They're not going to do that, so they're going to just now have the S and the Autobahn trims. I reviewed the Autobahn, but the Autobahn now is going to be getting the dynamic chassis control suspension, adaptive suspension setup from that 35th anniversary edition. The Autobahn does not get that for 2019, so if you want that, wait for a 2020 model year and get that suspension as standard. And then wireless charging pads are now going to be standard in the Autobahn trim as well. They didn't announce any kind of price changes yet, but I'm assuming getting those two things is going to make the Autobahn much more expensive. Maybe not. It'd be nice if they kept the same price point, but could be, the one I tested was right at like $30,000 exactly. So I would guess maybe they'll go up to maybe $31,000 or so. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully that S model stays nice and cheap there, around 26 or 27,000 though. But anyway, interesting to hear that. Nissan, the last death here, as they're also killing off the diesel and regular cab versions of the Titan after the 2019 model year. And so the Drive broke this story, and then Nissan confirmed it to them. And so we do know that the 2020 model year Titan will be getting a light refresh, a new grille to kind of match all the V-Motion grills you see in other Nissans here. And that should debut fairly soon. And so, I guess they're not ready to announce this news yet, but they kind of, since the Drive broke the story, they're like, yeah, it's not going to be around in those versions. So the diesel, I think, just wasn't the success they were hoping it would be, and the regular cab, I guess, has a lower profit margin or something than the larger versions of the Titan. And so those are both going away. And then the last news story this week is a vehicle that has been canceled but never got a chance to live in the first place. And so the rumored new GMC Jimmy that was going to be supposedly a competitor to the new Bronco and of course the Wrangler that GM was considering, that has supposedly been canceled, and that whole project, I guess, has been shelved, according to Muscle Car and Trucks, and that publication's anonymous insider sources. So supposedly there was a recent restructuring plan within GM that left no way for the Jimmy to be made. So it was going to be built on the next-gen Colorado and Canyon platform, which was going to be getting a whole new platform, but now the next generation version of those trucks is just going to be using an evolution of the current platform. So I guess kind of like how Cadillac just has doing like the Alpha 2 instead of doing a whole new platform for those. It's the same, I think, with this. They're just going to try and stretch out these other platforms and just modify them a little bit. I mean, it's worked for FCA for a long time with the Charger and Challenger and stuff. So I guess they're going to try and do some of that here at GM. And so I guess for some reason the new Jimmy couldn't be built on that new Evolution platform, and instead they're just canceling it. I also think, if this is actually true, because again, this is just a report and this could all be false, but if this is actually true and it did get shelved, part of me wonders, there's been talks this year about Hummer coming back as possibly an all-electric brand. So maybe GM wants to kind of go one step beyond the Bronco and the Wrangler and maybe do a baby Hummer that's a competitor to the Wrangler, but something that's completely electric, since we've heard about Hummer coming back as an EV brand. Make a smaller EV Hummer, that would make it better with range and stuff if it was smaller too. have it be a Wrangler competitor and do something kind of revolutionary. That would be an interesting take. That's just me spitballing, but kind of makes sense in my head. And they did actually tease back in 2008 a Hummer HX, I believe is what it was called. It was like a concept, and they were planning on building it, I think, until Hummer got killed off during the recession. But if Hummer does come back, I could envision something like that coming back in an electric version and maybe taking the place of where this Jimmy was supposed to, you know, kind of be. But again, we'll have to wait and see. It's, again, all speculation, but interesting to think about. Anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.